Welcome to the Deucecast Extra. Not the Deucecast movie show, the Deucecast Extra. And we are back to discuss part one of the finale. It ends up. So I'm excited about that. Very excited that this is a two-part finale. And as promised, because it was a two-part finale, his agent called me and he was like, "Look, you promised Nick that he was going to be on the finale." And I was like, "Oh, a caveat." And so, of course, we've got Nick back here from Podcast of the Wills. How's it going, Nick?
Hey, guys, what's up?
And that is the new Boba Fett helmet you just got, isn't it?
It is the new Boba Fett helmet.
Oh,
I'm trying to manifest what I expect to see in part 2 of this finale next week.
Okay.
Just bring a little Boba Juju to the show tonight.
There you go. And then, of course, we have got Garrison Rifen. How's it going, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Really good, really good. We had a lot of fun this last Friday night doing a live The Deucecast movie show. I was hyped up that night, man. I don't know what it was, but there was something in the air, and I was crazy that night. So if you haven't had a chance to go watch that, it is on our YouTube channel. In fact, I'm probably going to have to advertise that tomorrow because the audio version is not quite ready for prime time. So it might not, for the first time in like 10 something years, we might not release it on a Wednesday morning. So there's going to be some people upset about that. They're going to be like frantically looking for the episode. You'll have to watch it on YouTube, and then the souped up audio version might be out on Thursday or something like that.
And I just have to ask, you say that you were a little crazy and there may have something in the air. Are you sure it wasn't in whatever you were drinking? Would that?
Well, I did get a case of Zoa back in, and so
look at that. There he is.
This is an energy drink, and energy drinks are just something that I've picked up within the last probably 6 months, and they make me a little crazy. I'll be honest. They just do. It's the Rock's energy drink too, so it really makes me.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, do what the Rock does.
Exactly. He says, "Sip some Zoa." He has this thing he says that's not good for families to hear, so I won't say it on the podcast. But yeah, exactly, Roth. Well, they'll just think that the podcast app is broken because it kind of was like last Wednesday. At least on mine, there was some weird stuff going on with podcasts one time last week. I don't know if it was 2 weeks ago or it was taking a while for podcasts to upload on podcast apps and whatnot. But I've heard Apple Podcast is a hot mess anyways. That you have to subscribe and unsubscribe and do all kinds of crazy stuff sometimes.
Funny enough, it loaded on Apple Podcasts last week, really early for me. So,
okay, well there you go. Maybe
and that's why I love the Overcast app. That's my
I use Pocket Casts is mine, and it's awesome. I love Pocket Casts. I've been using it for years. Yes, I don't know, Roth. It smells fine to me. I mean, I don't know. So we are, of course, here to talk about what is ostensibly, episode 15, part one of a finale. I like the 2-part finale thing.
Yes.
It's pretty neat. It was a great episode. What we predicted, because they said it earlier in the season, we'll never take you back to Kamino, or you'll never have to go back to Kamino again.
Yeah. Yep.
Of course, we are returning to Kamino is basically what we did. That's in fact the title of the episode, Return to Kamino. And man, was it a doozy. This is the type of episode that I could just close my eyes and just listen to the music, because the score was just fantastic.
It was.
The motifs that they used, good. The Kiner brothers are just awesome.
They also I like that they borrowed a lot from the Attack of the Clones score.
Yes.
Especially around Kamino. That was my favorite part of the score for me.
And it was weird because and we're just going to jump all around. We're not going to try and go in order of event in this episode necessarily, but at the very end, when they were just doing a slow montage of different areas of Tapoka City and just playing that music, I got a little emotional from that. I mean, I'm like, this is just a dumb city. Why am I? But just so much happened there. in general that that it was
What's going on here?
I'm not sure.
A clone of Nick.
I know
very strange.
There was a variant of Nick.
I thought we left the Loki thing behind like 3 weeks ago.
I know, right? But we were just talking about how I kind of got emotional from the Tapoka City montage at the end of the episode.
Yes.
And I'm like, why am I getting emotional from a city? I mean, but it's just because it's so important to Star Wars in general.
Absolutely.
You know, and it was just that way. But that was like one of the many things in the episode that I liked.
I agree. Just to tag on to that, you know,
Yeah.
the thing I've harped on every single episode, even if I haven't been on with you guys, as I think about it, talk about it, is just the beauty of this style of animation. And it was highlighted in exactly that. You know, the different shots of the empty cafeteria, which we get in the first episode when they have the food fight. You know, so you get a little bit of the George Lucas It Rhymes poetry thing. But like, especially the one for me, and it's probably the same for you, was the shot of all the empty cloning tanks, because that's the shot we get in Attack of the Clones, where we first figure out there's a Kamino, and we get that shot when Obi-Wan shows up and gets the tour and the whole deal. And so to see all of that, and it's just empty, like it was beautiful as it has been the entire season.
Yep. And I guess we can kind of go back to the beginning of the episode. I mean, obviously, we're pretty much picking up right where we left off from episode 14, where Crosshair has captured Hunter.
Yeah.
And we find that he is returning to Kamino. This was a very interesting episode for Crosshair.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that I'm not sure if I believe, but
yeah.
But go ahead, Garrison. What's some of the stuff that you liked about this episode?
Well, there was kind of the reunion of the Bad Batch in this episode. I liked that aspect, and them having to fight together towards the end. That was a nice little moment for them. Obviously, it was kind of bittersweet, as we knew it wouldn't last. I had a feeling it wouldn't last, and of course it didn't. But I really, really liked the reunion between them, and then having them back together. You know, for the first time since the beginning of the season. You know, they've been fighting, you know, a couple times since then, but they actually got to fight together. That was nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, we are. Go ahead.
The chip thing's interesting because he says he's had his chip removed a long time ago. Now that makes me think, like, boy, has it been that long since the beginning of the season in the span of the universe?
Right.
I mean, he clearly had the chip as they were amping it up on him towards the beginning of the season. There were, they put him in that machine and kept scrambling his brain basically. And now he's had it taken out since then. Now, I do buy the fact that if Crosshair had his chip out, he would probably still be on the Empire's side. I do buy that. Maybe his actions in this episode reflect his chip being taken out, because he wasn't so quick to just kill the Bad Batch. He was giving them a chance.
He was trying to get him back. He was trying to get him back on his side.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But he still believed in what he was doing.
Right. Exactly.
And I think that's the interesting part of that. And you're exactly right. With Crosshair, there's honestly so much of this episode was about Crosshair. But to me, regardless of when the chip came out, he made personal decisions, and it comes from a place of being hurt, because he's hurt that they left him behind. And he says it several times. We're a team. You don't leave people behind, except that time. Like, he's hurt by what the actions that happened at the beginning, and whether it was confusion because good soldiers follow orders in that first episode. Yeah. And the separation and where they are in the moment they have. But if it's out, his decision to stick with the Empire comes from a place of brokenness, and comes from a place of him, being burned by his brothers, or so he thought. Yeah. And to me, that's that really interesting character development, that even then he's trying to say, look, come be with me. We're the strong ones. But it comes from an emotional place, which I think is where this show has really been its strongest throughout this season, is when they hit those emotional moments, whether it's the Dad Batch part of it and the
Mhm.
Hunter and Omega moments or something like this, it really drives that story to me even more.
And at the end of the episode, to your point, they left Crosshair behind in a sense. They didn't leave Crosshair behind at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
They actually brought him with them that time.
Yeah,
after
he
he
said
was
grab him.
knocked out.
Yeah, I think that and they actually addressed this. I don't know on what show or where they actually addressed this, but the Kiner brothers basically said it was the Kamino part that they got emotional over, like destroying the planet or whatever.
Yeah.
I had a feeling.
Yeah. So here's like my take on the whole chip thing. I think he thinks he's had it removed,
Right.
but he really hasn't. I think that he was roughed up, probably worse than they have shown from all the stuff that happened on that junk planet.
The burns.
I think that he was roughed up pretty bad. I think that he probably had to be revived, and maybe they have led him to believe that his chip is removed.
I could buy that.
So he could be a better leader in their mind, or manipulated easier. In that way,
they wouldn't have to keep putting him in that machine and
right.
amping it up, and
right. So I think that that is certainly something Admiral Rampart would do. I think that dude, at this point, obviously, is a guy that is going to do whatever it takes to accomplish whatever goals the Empire is trying to accomplish in this situation. And if they can manipulate a clone into thinking his chip's out, they're going to do
it's clear that Rampart has no care for the clones, because they're at the end when it's time for them to get out. He tells, that one reg that, kind of communicated with him. And when they leave from the landing pad, when Wrecker shows up with Hunter, and he tells him, he's like, keep an eye on him. I don't trust him. Or the stormtrooper tells him, I don't trust him. Keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
If you're right, it doesn't matter. Our plan is still served. Like, Rampart's on a different level. He doesn't really have a thing for Crosshair. And so at the end, he says, seal him in. It's time to get out of here. Like,
if you're right, I'll just blow up the base with them in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Brian makes a good point. And I didn't catch this on my first watch. I caught it on the watch through, because it's really quick and really subtle. He sort of touches his head, like where his chip would be. Right. So
about at the burn spot too.
Yeah, it's in that same area. Really makes me think that something's going on there. And that he thinks it is actually gone, but it's not. That's my call. I don't know. And I'm sure others have said the same thing. I mean, it seems that seems like the most logical thing, because he certainly, it would feel odd to me if he still had, if his chip was out, that he would put Empire over his brothers, because even in that moment, he wants them to join him, so he still wants that brotherhood, but then he's also putting Empire over that. And I think it's because the chip's still in, even though he thinks it's out. I just think that he's being controlled in some way still. Yeah. Otherwise, he would be all about the brotherhood, because there's a part of him that obviously wants that and yearns for that. But
he wouldn't have disposed of all those stormtroopers.
Yeah. As with all flawed, conflicted villains, there's that part of him. Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say, that I kind of sparked in my head just as you were saying that, Michael. The conflict is even within him, whether it's chip based, whether it's the hurt from being left behind. He's hurt and he's angry from being left behind, but he's still like, we can still be a team. We can still be like, he's very lost. Like, he doesn't know, where he is, what he's doing. And I think the potential for whatever we're going to get, obviously, in this last episode, when he comes to and realizes they didn't leave me behind this time, whether that's going to be, if that's the redeeming moment, if it's actually, hey, we've got to get to Rex and he's going to actually get your chip out, whatever it's going to be. It's been one of my favorite parts. And to be honest, to start this series, the Crosshair storyline, even though it was clear that was going to be a big driver, was not my favorite part of all this. Like, it didn't drive it as much for me as like the parental storylines and kind of the Empire. Of course, the big thing for me was the transition to the Empire. That's what I've really loved throughout all this.
Yeah.
But coming in, especially in this episode, like that character has developed for me, even in this one episode, to a point where, okay, does Crosshair get resolved next week, or is Crosshair a part of the carryover into season 2? You know,
I'm kind of like with Roth now. I mean, even though I had, major declarations throughout this whole season that somebody has to die to make it feel, now that there's a season 2, I don't think anyone, I think they all make it into season 2 at this point. I don't know. Although the odds should not be so much in their favor with Kamino crumbling around them, or Topoka City crumbling around them. But it's Star Wars, so they'll probably all live and make it to season 2. So, I still think that it would certainly be a very emotional impact to not only the viewer, but to the characters, especially Omega, if Wrecker died. But I think at this point, he's too below. I think they're going to pull him into season. I think everybody makes it now.
Yeah, and with the confirmation I was surprised they confirmed it this week and didn't wait until next week.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure that there are marketing gurus that make much more money than we do that work for Lucasfilm that had that plan all along. I mean, because
do they work for Spider-Man No Way Home? Because
yeah, exactly. Well, it's just that I think that increases interest in a finale if you announce that there's a season 2.
Doubt.
It's the anti-Netflix model where you never know if you're going to get a season 2 of something in Netflix. I
have liked that from Disney Plus a lot better. Loki stinger at the end of the season. Yeah,
right. They're telling people, hey, we're going to keep doing this show. Netflix drives me insane when they cancel a show that I spent a lot of energy watching and figured they would renew. It happened twice this year, and it's just gone. So
it's too expensive.
Yeah.
One thing I really liked was Omega kind of going against the Bad Batch guys and actually trying to formulate a plan to rescue them, but then it didn't really want to rescuing them.
And I love that. I love that, though. I'm glad that she's flawed.
I like that because that, not just that, but I like that she had an idea and she went and executed it, and she went overboard with it.
Yeah,
it's something to learn in the future.
Her and AZ up in that crow's nest, and he says, "We may have released a few too many droids," and she goes, "I see that."
Yeah. Oh, and man, so for that split second when you're thinking in your mind, Mandalorian season 2, are these dark troopers? There was that moment.
I was like
a millisecond, and I was like,
and I had the thought too while I was watching it just before we got started. The head on those training droids have that kind of bell-shaped, looks like Juggernaut head that is a little more like those troopers that we see in Mandalorian.
Yeah, it's not like a super battle droid. It looks a little bit different. So I thought that's what was
take down, though.
I thought that was what was about to happen.
And if we can talk about, since we're in the training arena at the moment, we're talking about that. Of course, there's so much of the good back and forth between Crosshair and Hunter and that whole deal. Yeah. But I know we're not supposed to try and apply science to Star Wars, and it's better when we don't. But when Crosshair has the clearly set up interconnected series of mirrors that he's going to reflect the one blaster bolt off of that takes out like 5 stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Were we aware that that's how blaster bolts worked? Because in the Star Wars I grew up watching, you hit somebody and it stops. It doesn't keep going.
Right,
but this blaster bolt went through each of them, and that was the new wrinkle.
Has a super blaster.
Yeah, it was
clearly
mega blaster or something.
It's what the
human bodies.
That's right. It's what the Star Wars Minute guys always asked for, which was a gun that shoots lightsabers. So,
dude, that'd be awesome.
Pretty much, except. Almost feel like it should have just continued to go.
That's right. It would have been like Luke in the trash compactor, just
constant.
That was one of those little brief moments, kind of like what was the war tactics one from the Draconian tactics, and I went, oh, so we have Draco in Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's one of those just like moments of, okay, so blaster bolts just keep bouncing. That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, and was it Tech or Echo that noticed it? I mean, because he sort of
he saw the mirror.
he was like, this looks different.
I think it was Tech.
I think it was probably Tech. Tech just seems like he's more on it.
Elbowed Wrecker, I think.
Yeah,
and I don't know that Wrecker did. When I saw Wrecker like get elbowed, did he really register that? I mean, I guess they're trying to say he did, but it didn't really look like he registered.
No,
anything.
that's not really his deal. He's not a noticer.
Yeah,
that's right. Fatmatic's right. Crosshair's weapon has a laser sniper. That's right. Yeah, he's awesome. I mean,
no doubt.
He's got the best weapon. We know that.
Cal of the Star Wars universe. There you go.
I like what Brian said in here. Right
This is
Omega's
good.
first moments back at home. Something switched over, and she's a very serious grown up. The whole landing pad thing.
Yeah.
A lot more mature in a way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's still, for me, and I've noticed this all throughout. And again, part of it maybe is the parent in me that pays attention to kids and that kind of thing. But when they're running through the hallway, there's an intentional camera shot of her face looking up at Hunter as they're running down the hallway, like taking a cue. And like she's been learning this whole time. And we've said that whether it was learning to defuse the bombs, whether it's learning to gamble and pay off their debts in, with Sid, whatever, all throughout this, like she is an eager child who is learning, growing, figuring stuff out. And Brian's right. She ends up in her home turf. And, somebody said in a text conversation earlier this week, how did she know about the landing pad? But like, she did all those errands for Nala Se. She was that right hand, like she carried stuff out. If she had never been off the planet, that was his question. If she's never been off the planet, how did she know about that? But like she was the errand person, like, hey, go take this to my secret contact, to my, she had kind of the inside knowledge.
Well, you could know about a landing pad without leaving the planet, too.
Sure, no doubt. But a secret landing pad that was untrackable made it, a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, and the personal science lab or research lab or whatever
and in fact, the fact that she knew that's where Clone Force 99 was created, she had some pretty interesting insight on that type of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Because she's much younger.
I thought it was interesting because she said she saw them, didn't she?
I think that's what I thought I heard, but
she's a differently aging clone, which we already pretty much knew.
Right.
Which means she's older than them in human years.
I don't know, though. That would be some fast acceleration, but I guess they do accelerate. Well, no, but Clone Force 99, did they grow fast also? I don't know. I thought that
they grew fast. They just had the other, manipulations or abnormalities or bonuses or whatever we call that. Bonus troopers. I like that.
This Roth. People that have never played. That's true, Roth.
It's a fair point.
What about secret airports, Roth?
That's right.
That's right. But do you know about the secret
landing strip?
Do you know about the secret James Bond evil layer landing strip under the ocean?
Was it the secret landing strip, that club they went to in Varsity Blues?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Right, that may not have been it.
That may not have been it. But then, but I loved the tube system underneath.
That was really cool. I really did like that.
Very cool.
To Roth's comment, I don't think Mega and Boba are the same age. They're the same. They're from kind of the same. They're both a clone of Django.
No, they're not the same age. He's a little older.
Age. He's older. Yeah.
He's going to be a little bit older.
But I think they're aging about the same. Is what I would
say. Right. They're aging normally, but he was created before she was.
Right, because if she's the last of that, of the original Django donor situation,
yes,
I think she's a couple years behind him. Is the way I've understood that.
Yeah, they're both first generation clones.
Mm-hmm.
So you had the helmet on, Nick. So you really think we're going to see Boba?
I think there's a very realistic possibility that we could see Boba, and I think it does revolve around some things of that was his home. If there's some sort of distress signal we get, it was in the episode before this where the doors close and the stormtroopers are going to take out Lama Su.
Yeah,
but we don't see that happen. So is there some sort of third act rescue for Lama Su and is that where they deactivate? Because it was clones that were left in there with him, right? Or was it the new stormtroopers?
Ooh, I can't remember.
But I think what I read was that they were clones. And so if there's a fail safe that we've kind of talked about all along, some kind of bailout, does a distress signal go out? Is there something that, excuse me, something hit my foot that I did not know what it was. Is there something that draws Boba to Kamino in that moment? Because obviously we end with our heroes trapped inside a building that is being turned into slag. And I don't know. I think there's a certain opportunity for Boba to show up and be the rescue, be, you know, a beacon, I guess, is what I keep seeing it as, is a beacon that he answers.
Yeah, the only reason I think that from the standpoint that are there any other Kaminoans left other than, of course, Nala Say's, the comment that Rampart makes at the end of the episode, you know, asking the conscripted trooper, is there are all the Kaminoans gone?
Right.
Do we just have the scientist? And she confirms all of that. But yeah, you could be right. I mean, this episode does show us that there's a lot of secret corridors, secret labs, secret. I mean, yeah. I mean, sure, Lama Su. Other than like, what's the point of Lama Su? I mean, you know, unless
and I'm less convinced. You know, my whole Kaminoan's chaotic neutral theory has kind of petered out over the course of this season. But we did get some very intentional stuff in the first few episodes about they don't do anything haphazardly. They're very organized. They're very planned. There have to be contingencies.
And that could still come into play. And I would like to see that, because they certainly, from an audience standpoint, they certainly had us thinking that there's some fail-safe plan.
Right.
And so, yeah. Okay. I'm with you then. I'm with you that maybe there's something to that, and maybe Lama Su got out somehow. I mean, you know, he seems at least a bit more, him being a politician, obviously, he's a bit more.
There's some calculation there.
Squirmy than the scientist. You know, he might find his way out. Who knows?
Not wormy in his bucket hat, but squirmy.
Squirmy, exactly. He's slimy. He's a politician.
That's
right. To the Boba point, I mean, we're about to hit Boba mania, kind of Boba Renaissance.
And I think that's part of what's that's
Boba Fett.
The other part of my theory is we have Book of Boba coming. We've had this kind of Bobazance. You know, why not give that little bit of a tease, even if it's just for this episode, for this finale, and he doesn't have to carry into season 2.
Yeah,
but like, I mean, we got Rex in that one, and we haven't seen Rex again.
True.
And maybe we do get Rex in the finale too, because obviously we've got Hauser hanging out with Sid, and she's not happy about it. Rex is still out there floating somewhere. Like, we've got some people introduced, but I could see Boba being some part of rescue, dropping them off. All right, y'all are going to be fine. And then he pieces out until Book of Boba Fett. He's not necessarily a part of season 2, but it feeds some of that fan excitement that keeps us going to December.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean,
they work in the Cad Bane Boba Fett stuff into the show, though. That would be kind of a wish for me at some point.
I wouldn't mind them holding that off until Book of Boba Fett and making that a live action thing. I wouldn't mind
older Cad Bane,
an older Boba? Cad Bane,
or a flashback. Could they flash it back and do
or
it
a flashback, or Cad Bane hears that Boba has taken over on Tatooine, and he wants to come finish him off. So I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't mind seeing a live action.
Oh yeah, and Roth has a good point. Gregor's out there now too. So we've got Gregor, we've got Hauser. Rex is still floating.
Well, I thought Hauser was captured. I thought he was in.
That's right. They left Gregor with Sid.
Yeah,
Hauser was captured, but hopefully we're not done with Hauser. Obviously,
no. I think that we're going to
that hair can't be gone from us yet.
No. We've got all these characters that they're introducing in this season. Very much will be a part of season 2 in some capacity. I mean, or something else. They're not introducing these characters for one-off reasons. I mean, we're still gonna get. I think that there's still got to be some type of clone war, like I mean, the clone resistance has got to. They've got to try and fight the Empire at some point, and the Empire's got to win. We've got to see that at some point. You know, we've got to see all these clones, for the most part, get wiped out. Otherwise, there's got to be an explanation somewhere for all of that, right?
They said that they were sent off world away from Kamino.
They did send them off.
They said that.
Yeah.
Well, and it
think
is
maybe
apparent.
some of that purging could have already started happening, or
Maybe. I mean, you're right. I mean, they could have been, for lack of a better way to put it, they could have been sent to the ovens somewhere,
yeah.
already.
Well, and that they could have sent them out on ships, and those vendors that are hanging out in the atmosphere could have smoked them as they headed on their way out the door.
Yeah.
Sure.
I still like the idea or the concept that they kind of all head out, but then their chips get shut off, and so they're just kind of released out into the galaxy somehow. Like, you have them, so pockets of clones that could pop up along the way, or they just went to ground and they hit out and they set up other. I mean, obviously we get the retcon of Rex in Return of the Jedi, which I'm totally fine with. We get, when Wolf and Gregor and what's his name and Rex show up in Rebels, like, they've ended up in other parts of the galaxy,
Sure,
in different ways. And so there's a part of me that likes the idea, but there's so many of them that I guess that doesn't logically make sense that there'd be that many people who just all of a sudden became citizens somewhere.
right.
Yeah.
Especially with chain codes coming online and
the young ones too, like the younger ones that we saw in the previous episode. Are we going to train somewhere else?
Right.
Those guys. But the one thing that I was, watching so many after shows of this, were like the 5,000th after show that does these. But one person that called into one particular after show caught something that I did not catch initially, which was one of the clones was actually reassigned and was working on one of the Star Destroyers. And he's the one that actually pushed the button when Tarkin said, "You may fire when ready."
which, I
Yeah,
mean, Tarkin
exactly.
saying "you may fire
Yeah.
when ready."
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
we were done.
Said
At
the
that point.
line.
There was a clone down there, and he's the one that actually pushed the button to start firing on Kamino. So it's interesting that it appears that some of them are getting reassigned onto the ship and doing different jobs,
So like as officers or something.
but yeah, that makes no sense though, because Rampart and Tarkin are both not a huge fan of the clones.
Correct. Yeah,
So it makes it,
and that's been made very apparent.
You don't have to make them
weird.
all officers. You can make maybe some select few that you like officers.
Maybe
That's what's happened.
Yeah.
There's obviously they have a plan for this, and hopefully we'll get some of that explained.
Brian, I mean, hey, Brian, it's Star Wars, so you never know. I mean, there could always be a planet killer weapon coming out somewhere. I mean, yeah.
There's always a bigger fish or planet killing weapon,
and hopefully they don't explain it in an encyclopedia instead of
right,
in the show.
like a Del Rey book or something, a coffee table book.
Yeah, which
Del
can
Rey kids pop-up book about how this all happened.
How this all happened, exactly.
Which, those things are always retconned and changed if they want them to
yeah,
be. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's just part of it. With so much content, stuff gets retconned at some point. I mean, it's just natural.
I thought the same thing as Brian, though. When the Star Destroyers were popping up, I was like, okay, well, they don't have the giant laser guns on them from Rise of Skywalker.
Well, yeah, I guess it's the difference from taking out a city versus a planet. So they were just trying to. Yeah. Now we do know,
basically,
that there are other cloning facilities, though. I mean, we saw that in this series. There was that abandoned clone facility.
Right.
I wonder if the Empire is aware of the existence of all of those. That's something that we're not really quite sure of, and again, we keep going back to the contingency plan. I wonder if that is part of the contingency plan, that there are Kaminoans out there someplace else making clones for somebody else besides the Empire. I mean, who knows?
Well, and that's, if I can pull on that thread for another minute, we've also got Dr. Pershing in Mandalorian, who is a cloner, has the cloning patch. We have, what we get in Battlefront 2 with the Emperor, Operation Cinder. We get Rise of Skywalker. Like, this cloning thing, like, there's pockets of cloning stuff all over the place. And there's, it wiping out Kamino didn't end the cloners or the cloning, or I'm going to even say the Kaminoans. Like, some of them, whether they were not the biggest fan of Lama Su and said, yeah, I'll work for your empire, or like there's more of that in places we haven't seen. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ryfen.
Maybe no, I'm sorry. Maybe the Kaminoans went to Exegol.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
you can tie that in some way.
There can't just be one scientist. There can't just be Nala Se.
Well, they can be all over the place. Spread out.
Yeah, they've got to be. So yeah.
Well, and clearly with Dr. Pershing, we have an example of their cloners that aren't just Kaminoan either. So
this is true. Yeah.
Cloning could be much more widespread than we realize, but our biggest exposure to it is Kaminoans and that one cameo of a guy with a patch. Like, there could be, Ryloths that are into cloning that we don't know about, or some other something.
Whoever's willing to pay for the technology and pay for the contracts.
And we know that Omega at least has some passing knowledge of how the whole process works.
Right. And
I mean,
and if I can shout Brian out, as Dex says, they're cloners, and he follows up with damn good ones too.
Yeah.
So that indicates right there there's more than just those, but the Kaminoans are really good at it. So
and was it Quill that appeared to also have some knowledge of cloning because he was able to tell that Grogu wasn't a clone?
Correct. He did say that.
Golly.
Yeah. Those threads are buried in throughout this whole thing, and so it definitely connects to the bigger lore. We may not get what it is or how it shows up.
When do we get to strand casts?
I know exactly. I mean, that's still there's still some of it coming. I still don't know if I necessarily understand the difference between a clone and a strand cast, but I mean, I'm sure
my understanding is a strand cast is a diminished clone. Like it was, if
like
you go
Snoke.
three or four down, 3 or 4 down the line, there's some mutations. It's not as good as the second one. The fourth one is worse. Like that's how I interpret a strand cast, is a diminished version of a clone.
That makes sense.
And so like, even in this, they make the comment at one point where they say something about the original host, or, the last of the material from the original host.
Right.
And while they didn't say it, it had a little bit of that vibe of like, if we don't have this, and we pull from like the clones of that clone, it's not going to be as good as it's like sourdough starter. Maybe like it's not as good as that original batch, but at some point, it gets weaker farther down the line.
Exactly.
Sorry, Rhett. Sorry to disappoint you.
Wow, Rhett. What a bait and switch. Come on,
cheers,
Rhett.
buddy.
Hey, I mean, look, the guy's a doctor. He goes to these galas. Is that what they call them? Galas? Gala? Gala? I don't know what they call them. He's important. He goes to all these dinners and things. And so I don't, he's way more important than the rest of us.
Very true.
Yeah. So, okay, fine.
Between me and Dr. Earl, one of us is not sitting in our garage talking about Star Wars right now.
Right, exactly. I'm not putting that up, Rhett. But oh man. But yeah, so and who was it? Was it not at one point Lama Su was like kill Omega? Like Lama Su at one point wanted Omega dead, which didn't make much sense to me, because the concept being that they needed another host, right? They needed, that part really didn't make much sense to me earlier in the season when they're trying to continue their cloning business, but he is wanting to kill Omega. It's interesting. I mean, any thoughts on that?
Clearly, they've moved past it. I don't know. I don't know. It's been so long.
Yeah, and you're right, because Nala Se and Omega were tight. Like that was, her assistant. Yeah. They worked together day in and day out. Yeah. Lama Su is the politician. Lama Su is the one that, maybe sees a bigger picture, or at most is very self-focused and self-preservation, that kind of thing. Yeah. And so if that changes something for Lama Su's feelings about Omega, I don't think Lama Su really cares about Omega. I think that was in that moment, eliminate it, move on.
Yeah.
But, ultimately that character's whole thing is preservation and survival beyond where they are right then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I still think that this finale, obviously it's now that we know there's a season 2, there's going to be some type of cliffhanger. I still think that there's going to be some tragedy of some type. Obviously, I mean, we've got Tapoka City. I keep wanting to say Tapioca City.
Absolutely.
But Tapoka City is in the ocean, and we're going to see them all escape. But then I still think even after they escape, there's going to be some type of tragedy. I'd still just have that feeling about this
I want
show.
someone to die so bad.
I'm just saying tragedy, like maybe Omega gets captured by the Empire or something.
It's and we get that in the penultimate episode of Mandalorian. We get Grogu get captured. Like, it's a great storytelling device. And to be perfectly honest, I'm with you, Michael. Like, I'm not saying I'm rooting for somebody to die.
Yeah, I don't want someone
but
to
I'll
die
be very surprised if we get to the end of the episode this week and we don't have some sort of big loss that makes us feel a feel and sets up a motivation for one or all of our characters for this now confirmed second season. I think that has the potential to drive it as much as anything else that's going to happen.
I think we're gonna have a happy ending and a medal ceremony, and
at the very least,
because that's always how you set up the next season of something. Right. This is going to be Seinfeld. Everybody going to jail. Wait, what?
At the very least, I wouldn't mind seeing a redeemed Crosshair for a moment, saving Hunter or Omega or somebody, and then dying.
I was about to say saving Hunter and making a sacrifice.
Right. Making a sacrifice. I would that would work for me because that's emotional resonance for the characters on the show. That's for the audience.
But it also seems like the easiest storytelling choice.
It is. It certainly
because
is.
Because for me, and I've kind of been on this train since halfway through. I'm on the Wrecker train, and not that I dislike Wrecker, but like Wrecker carries a different emotional weight. Yeah. And for what we've said as we've gone through, not only as we've gone through this series and the times that I've been on with you guys, we've talked about this series and the Clone Wars for the it has grown up with its audience. Like the primary original audience of Clone Wars are at a different age where they are now. So this could have a darker ending. And I think a dark ending for this could be Wrecker, which affects obviously the main team, but also affects Crosshair because he realizes some of his actions and the decisions he made, even if he ends up back with the team, it haunts him and he feels a responsibility for it.
What if they go so far as to killing Hunter and it forces Crosshair to move up into a leadership role? Right. Ooh, I like that too.
It's a big swing, but you know what? Yeah. It's out there. I mean,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I need something big to happen leading us up into season 2 to propel the Clone Force 99 to finally choose a side. That's one concept that they've had throughout this season is they sort of are trying to remain independent, right? I need something to push them so far, and it might have already happened with them trying to, with the Empire trying to take down Tapioca City. That might be your catalyst there for them to choose the rebellion side, but I don't know. I might need something more to really push them into, okay, we've got to take care of this Rampart guy. We've got to take him out. So yeah.
There's something that unifies the team. And
the
team is unified, but Crosshair, and I was just about to point out what Fatmatic said.
Good point. Yeah. That's a good point, though. I mean, if you're rest of the crew trust Crosshair.
If you're going with the story of would the crew trust Crosshair, you spend the whole episode dwelling on that aspect. If he's going to make the sacrifice, you spend the whole episode dwelling on that aspect that they don't trust him, and then at the end, you find out he was to be trusted, and he makes the sacrifice and saves the team.
It'd be quite poignant. I mean, it'd be a nice poignant moment to have, and propel the rest of the team into more of the joining the fledgling rebellion to try and take out the Empire type situation. Because we obviously know that Rex is part of the Ahsoka is around, in the starting up the rebellion. She is, I guess, at this point, she is undercover. Obviously, was she the first? what's that code name they were using in Rebels for her?
Fulcrum.
Yeah, she was the first Fulcrum, and
Yes.
then sexy hair guy was the second, the second Fulcrum or whatever. Sorry, you haven't seen Rebels, Ryfen. I'm sorry.
You're just speaking gibberish.
You've got to rectify that, man. Rebels is good.
I told you I'm gonna watch it before Kenobi comes out. That's my,
okay. That's fair. Hey,
That
that's
works.
fair. I like
Totally
that.
works.
It's only 4 seasons. You can do it. Or was it 5? Was it only
4, yeah.
It was only 4. Yeah, it was only 4. Man, gotta have that 5th season.
See,
What's
you
up with
forgot, which means it's time for you to go back. But you've got like 1,000 other movies to watch right now.
I've got 1,000 movies to watch, and there's like literally 7 or 8 television shows. That
I would say, actually, I'm going to take that back because I don't want anything to get in the way of you starting to watch Sopranos again. So that's really.
I've never watched one episode of Sopranos.
I've
literally never watched one episode of it. So yeah, no, I've got to finish this movie thing, and then I'm.
That's number 1 after the movies. I've declared it.
I don't know. I thought about Succession first, and then
stop. I'm telling you right now, it's Sopranos.
But if I watch the first 2 seasons of Succession, I'll be ready for the 3rd season, which comes out next year.
But if you watch all 6 seasons of Sopranos, then you'll be ready for the Sopranos prequel movie that's coming out in November or December?
Yeah, sometime before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
I saw a trailer for that in front of the Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah. It looks good. I mean, I think it's pretty cool that Gandolfini's son is playing him.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I mean, that in and of itself is pretty awesome. Yeah. That's right. Reg speaks the truth here. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. As the memes on Twitter say, show me the lie.
Yeah, exactly. Now Roth is tempting me here. Oh gosh, I really want to watch that show. All right, so any final part?
That's the next Deuce Cast Extra where we just spend time lobbying Michael for what he's going to watch after he finishes his movie thing.
Luckily, I've watched a lot of the big ones. I just happened to miss Sopranos and the first 2 seasons of Succession.
It's a Mount Rushmore show for me. If that
and The Wire and West Wing, all the shows that you love, Nick, I haven't watched.
Yeah. See, I mean, why are we even friends? What's going on here?
I keep people talking about this show. What is this? What is Ted Lasso? I'm so unfamiliar.
So it's that guy, the actor. What is his name?
Jason Sudeikis. Who's phenomenal.
Jason Sudeikis.
It is great, but Rhett, you're wrong. It's not on TV.
Well, it's on Apple TV.
Well, see, no, you have to understand. Rhett's an old man. Anything that's in front of him on his TV is just on TV. It's like in the South where everything's a Coke. It's like it's the same concept.
So what you're telling me, he's like Gene Simmons watching The Mandalorian on Disney Cable, as he calls it.
Exactly.
Didn't Sudeikis? He started out doing those soccer like commercials for NBC or whatever, and then now they've spun it off into the show. I've heard great things about it.
I've watched the first season and it's fantastic. Like it's really, really fun. My Apple TV Plus free subscription that I got with getting my kids' cell phones a year ago expired a week before season 2 started. So I'm left out to dry at the moment because I'm not paying for Apple TV Plus. But the first season was great.
Look at Fatmatic trying to bring us. Fatmatic trying to bring us back around. What's the Marauder?
The Bad Batch.
Oh, that's the name of it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, sort of like the Mandalorian. Okay. Oh, look at you. You've got the Marauder right there. Awesome.
There. Bought it at Publix when I was buying my groceries, son.
You saw it at Publix.
Yep.
Hey, it's crazy that
toy section at Publix.
Publix has more stuff on the pegs than Target does.
Correct. No doubt about that.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. We've gone 48 minutes on a 26-minute show. So I think
seems about right.
Tomorrow, What If?
Oh, that's right. You wanted to talk about What If.
Yeah. Captain Carter is the first episode. These have come out for the first 3 episodes. I'm not going to say all the titles right now. We know this episode is going to be 32 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Is it one episode tomorrow? Just that one? Okay.
Just one.
As far as I'm aware. Okay. If there's 2, the second episode would be 33 minutes.
Okay.
But
interesting.
Getting good reviews so far. I've heard the second and third episodes are better than the first based on just reviewers that I've watched and read. But I'm really excited for this upcoming MCU show to also cover a finale for a Star Wars show and the MCU show as we've been spanning Bad Batch for a while. It'll be awesome to do 2 different animated shows from 2 different universes.
That's awesome. So Nick, you're coming back next week, so you have to watch What If also.
Oh,
So
I will absolutely be watching
you were
What
planning,
If.
yeah.
Obviously, as somebody who is still working on the MomCU,
Right.
but also, yeah, I'm very excited for What If for sure.
Okay.
I'm going to throw a bone to Rhett. I think Shuma Gorath is in the show.
Oh, Rhett likes Shumagorath. I don't know what the heck that is, but he talks about it a lot, and he likes it. He likes some
There are
Shumagorath.
tentacles in the trailer, and
That,
you can't convince me that's not Shuma.
you just said the magic word. Rhett really likes tentacles. Rhett's a
There
big
you
fan
go.
of tentacles. So that's, you just said the magic
Everybody
word.
has something.
All right. Well, Nick, talk
Yes,
about all the shows you've got and where we can find you on the interwebs.
without a doubt. Well, Podcast of the Wills. We are on all of the main social media things at Wills Pod. Two specific things I want to throw out. 2 nights ago, I had, if you have ever listened to a Star Wars audiobook really in your life, it was most likely narrated by Mark Thompson, and Mark Thompson was our guest 2 nights ago. He's such a good guy. He's so much fun. He did Chewie, he did Han, he did maybe the best C-3PO outside of Anthony Daniels, and one that was clamored for in the live chat. He did Marchion Row, or Marchion, depending on where you fall in that discussion conversation from the High Republic. And I will give credit to our own Michael in the live chat. He said, I feel like his Marchion Row has a very John Malkovich feel to it. And he confirmed that his Marchion Row is definitely Malkovich. So he did that. So Mark Thompson 2 nights ago, super fantastic. It's on YouTube. It's in where you get audio podcasts. But also to Ryfan's point and What If, my guest this coming Sunday night is Adam Frazier, who writes for Slash Film and a couple of other great outlets.
Oh, cool.
And he has seen the first 2 or 3 episodes in the releases, and he has already himself said it's really good, and he's really excited about What If and where that's going. So Podcast of the Wills coming up this week, Adam Frazier this past week, Mark Thompson, both super awesome guests. And then we have podcast Heroes of the MomCU, the podcast where we're working our way chronologically through the Marvel movies with my wife, who knows nothing about them, and my 4 daughters. And last night we did Captain America Winter Soldier.
That was a good episode.
Which is one of my Mount Rushmore Marvel movies. And there's some really good stuff in this episode. And for her, my favorite pull out of that, the tease is one of her big questions was, how does the Falcon charge his wings?
No, that was a great moment. I loved that in the
how
episode.
does he charge his wings, and how long does that
question.
battery charge last? That's what she was concerned about.
It's a good question.
But anyhow, so check us out in any of those places. And then, of course, I'm excited to be back here next week for the actual rest of the finale for Bad Batch.
That's right. Thank you so much for coming on, Nick. Short notice. Thank you very much, Dr. Earl.
It's my pleasure.
Like I said, Dr. Earl's at a gala. So, you know.
He's being fancy, pretentious,
exactly.
Fancy Dr. Earl.
Exactly. Garrison, where can the people find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on Twitter at SUPASH3, and you can find me on Letterboxd at GRyfan, and I'm also on the Deucecast Discord.
That's right. The Deucecast Discord, very fun place to talk about movies, TV, pretentious corners, Disney stuff. David apparently feels like he needs to have his Disney channel that he's never in. So there's that.
And I am in the Deucecast Discord as Hank Spaceman, so...
That's right.
If you see that, that's me being obnoxious.
Exactly. Yes, he does, Rhett. He lives in the 20s. Dr. Earl definitely lives in the 20s. that is accurate.
It is the 20s. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Holy cow.
Yeah, exactly. So again, the chat, thank you guys so much. It really makes it fun to do these live shows with the chat hanging out with us, hanging out and commenting and asking good questions and making good comments often. Brian and Roth and Fetmatic, Rhett, sometimes he makes a good comment here or there. And, if you happen to want to share this with a friend or something, please do so, because we're still trying to gather subscribers slowly but surely. To get to at least 100 subscribers would be nice. And so like, share, comment, hit the bell. That's all that the kids say. We will be back next week, of course, to talk about part 2 of Return to Kamino, which I guess Kamino's still there, but Topoka City, no more. And then, of course, episode 1 of What If, which I'm very much looking forward to. Thank you guys again for listening, and we will catch you next week.